the coolest thing about the job is the experience that you want to get out of that job is limitless. Like, if you want to recruit a ton, you can do it. If you want to do everything possible with the staff, you can do it. There's nothing that's really going to hold you back. It's a limitless opportunity where you can really learn a ton about yourself.
Thanks for listening to episode 3. This one's definitely a little different than our first 2 episodes. In episode 1, we talked to Nick Mandarano. Episode 2, we had Mike Adams from Baseball Performance Center. And each were one-on-one interviews between Brandon and I and that interviewee. But episode 3, we really change it up and we look at all of the amazing assistant coaches that Coach Collins has had in the past couple of years. So I hope you guys like this change in format, but without further ado, here we go. Let's talk to Mike Collins and his Bloomsburg GAs. All right, and here we are with everyone. We got, just all over the country, and we got Coach Collins here. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking to Coach Collins just about, his time here at Bloomsburg, of course. And then we'll go into introducing everyone, talking to everyone about their time at Bloomsburg and some of their big takeaways. I think this is a really great opportunity to get everyone's perspective on, what their time at Bloomsburg has meant to them. And I think it's really cool seeing everyone just, being in one spot for sure. So I think the one thing that, and I know Brendan and I talked about this in our pre-show, back and forth on FaceTime, was that Coach Collins is right now tied for first in Bloomsburg University coaching wins and at 314 wins, which I think is honestly crazy because he would never tell you that. I know a quick story was, I think Sports Info put something out and said that Coach Collins was a couple wins away from hitting the school record. And I was like, why? You never told me that. Why is that? And he was like, well, it's not that important. Like, that's not why we're here. So I think it's really interesting to get his perspective. So, Coach Collins, I think the big thing that we really want to go after is talking about just, how the assistant coaching gigs in baseball are, really quick, right? You don't really get too many people that are staying like double-digit years and helping you out. And it also doesn't help that fact that, you have the 2-year GA position that a lot of the guys in this chat were. So, some people see that as a negative, but I really quick want to get your opinion on just how it's been positive to you, your own development, and getting, such a broad, set of viewpoints from every different GA that you've had over this time period.
When you look at it, people immediately find out that my primary assistant is a grad assistant. People automatically think, oh, that's too bad. I mean, you're turning over assistants. That's a shame that you don't have that continuity. And, at times, I mean, you could think a bit in that regard, but if you really look at college baseball across the board, there's a lot of turnover with assistant coaches. So our coaching staff isn't a whole lot different than everybody else's. The other part about it is if I turn it around, I can kind of make it a positive in that I can find extremely ambitious young guys that want to utilize the position as a stepping stone and not hire somebody that's going to be a little bit complacent, not somebody that's going to come in there and just kind of do the job and settle down, but somebody that has a bit of a chip on their shoulder that's going to utilize it to really propel themselves forward. So we can maximize that position if we find the right individual with the right attitude. I'll never forget, maybe at the beginning of my tenure at Bloom, we were down there playing at Young Harris in Northern Georgia, and Coach Robinson was a longtime head coach there. He's done a great job. He was talking about his young assistants, and he would tell me that he would say to them, if you're coming here, regardless of what you're getting paid, you need to work like you're getting paid $150,000 a year. So, he would take that mindset of, we're going to get younger guys in here that are going to work their tails off, establish themselves as a capable, young, ambitious college coach. And that guy is going to take that opportunity to propel his career forward. And then, the program is going to benefit from that individual's work ethic and so on. Also, and I think that's kind of been the way with us. Everybody kind of comes in with this idea of, I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to prove that I could coach at this level, and I could coach. I could have a lot of success and have a huge impact. The other part of it is, it's an opportunity for some guys to get their master's degree, which is extremely helpful to them. And also, it's kept me young. It's kept me current, because I think that the young, when I started, I was a young guy, but time moves fast when you're in this game, and continually bringing in young assistants keeps you current, because every guy that comes in has something new that they want to try, and they want to explore, and they want to put out there. And I'm kind of jazzed up about that. So that's another great advantage to the position.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think the one thing that I've really took away very quickly about you, Coach Collins, was when I was interviewing for the spot, I remember having, we went through, talked about my own philosophy, all that kind of stuff. But the biggest takeaway I had from the whole entire interview, and I remember saying it to family, friends, I was like, so I finished up and Coach Collins started talking about his team and all that. And the first thing he said was, oh, I have seniors, I have XYZ senior, and he just got a job here. And this guy got an internship here. And they're, I'm so excited for them to end up their senior year and go forth and really go into the workforce, because I think that they've done a really great job. And I thought that was like extremely profound, because I've never seen that. Mostly baseball coaches, want to talk about baseball. They want to talk about, who's hitting the best, what do you got to do, tweaks, all that kind of thing. But really looking at that, as we say, like that 40-year plan, I could see that from the beginning. And I was really impressed by that. I thought that was so super interesting.
I think as you move on in coaching, you start to have a greater feel of the bigger picture, especially when you see your alumni come back and you see them grow and you see them advance in their careers and have families and so on and so forth. It forces you to broaden your perspective as a coach. Well, because when I was 25, 26, 27 coaching, I wasn't thinking too much about that. I was thinking about the here and the now, and how are we going to get somebody to throw more strikes or get on base or this or that. And then, things sort of broaden out for you as you do this job.
That's awesome. I mean, that was one of the things that really drew me to you, Coach Collins. Especially me, when I first started, I really liked the game of baseball, and I just wanted to be involved. And then all the extra stuff that you've done, the fact that you can really tell that you care, and that really sticks out to me. And I'm sure all the other GAs will also.
Well, yeah, I think seeing the success that these guys have had, even the graduate assistants that are in here on the Zoom, and the success that they've had in their careers, and our alumni, especially particularly the young alumni, when I look at our current players, I look at the possibilities in what lies ahead of them, and how their participation in the program can impact their future, especially right off the bat. And I think it's very easy as a coach to not pay much attention to that and really ignore a terrific opportunity you have to help those guys with that next big step. And as you get through this and you get going in your career, the wins and losses are still exciting, and an opportunity to play in the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. But you start to become more excited about the success of your guys in their life, and knowing that what you do as a coach can even be more impactful beyond the field. And you see that you have those opportunities when you coach. You have those opportunities, and it's a shame if you don't take advantage of them.
Absolutely. I feel like that's one of the things that makes the program stick out. But another thing I really feel like is the GAs, all the personalities we've had. So I just want to go around and introduce everyone and get everyone's story. I'm just going to start off with Coach Rob Hardy. If you could give us a little background, your story about Bloomsburg and where you're at now.
Well, I guess we'll start with the playing career. I played 2 years at Herkimer County Community College. From there, I went on to Binghamton University, and there's a couple of people in this meeting right here that have impacted Binghamton University in one way or another. Coach Collins has coached there. Coach Johnson has also coached there. And Coach Johnson actually recruited me to Binghamton. So it was a very small world, especially in this chat. And then beyond that, Right around my second year at Herkimer, I kind of sat down with Coach Tom. He's a volunteer at Herkimer, and he's put in many years of just into baseball in general, whether it's, high school, Legion, college level. And I was like, I want to get into the coaching world. I don't really know how to do it. And he kind of started hinting at sitting closer to the coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And it worked, but it also wasn't as impactful as taking the first step and saying to Coach Zanicki 2 years later, hey, can I be an assistant coach, and or can I help you out in some way or another? And he took me under his wing. I spent a year as a student assistant while I was finishing my undergraduate degree, and then went on to Bloomsburg from fall of 2017 to the summer of 2019. So where we're at.
That's pretty sweet. I know I'm excited to hear all these stories. Next, Coach Nick Eversole, could you give us a little bit about your background and how you're doing now?
You want me just to dive into some MC stories? No, I won't. So I grew up in Central PA. Was really just looking for a place to play college baseball. Coach Collins and Coach Johnson came and saw my last high school baseball game. It was at State College High School. And I had a pretty good game. Collins came up to me afterwards, said, hey, we'll give you a chance. We'll give you the fall to basically make the team. And so I came, made the team, played there for 4 years. I played in 2010, 11, 12, 13. And then when I was done playing, I was still finishing my degree. So I coached there for 2 years. I coached there 14 and 15 as a volunteer. After the spring of 15, I went and coached the summer in Colorado. It was the Mountain West Summer Collegiate League. It was a college league at the time. I was a head coach out there. I think the league shut down. And then after that, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky to coach at Bellarmine University. I was a volunteer there my first year, which was 2016. And then I've been there. After my first year, I got bumped up to recruiting coordinator. I've been the recruiting coordinator for 4 years. So, yeah, that's it. That's me.
Sweet. All these stories are really making me sad because there's no baseball right now. But Pat Brown, Coach Pat Brown, can we go to you next? Give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, for sure. From Syracuse, New York. Played Division III baseball at Oswego State University. Was there for 5 years. Sat out 1 year because I got hurt. And then over winter break, my senior year, I was going through every school in the country that had a GA and emailing their coach, and found to come that I sent about 300 meaningless emails that probably 10 of them got answered. And then on the ABCA website, Coach Collins posted the opening for the GA. And I remember I was sitting in my head coach's office, and it popped up, and I was like, Bloomsburg University has a GA opening. And I was like, Central PA. And I don't know why I'd never heard of it, because from Syracuse, it's not that far, 3.5 hours. So I actually went down there. Being from upstate New York, didn't know too much about Division II baseball. We didn't have too much Division II baseball up there at the time. Lemoyne was Division I, and they were switching, so I didn't know too much about it. Went and interviewed over winter break of my senior year and accepted the position actually on my car ride home. So took the job there. Was there for the spring of 2016, the spring of 2017. Had a great time there. Learned a ton. Was glad to be a part of Division II baseball. And then actually, I think it was late in August, went and worked a camp at St. Joe's and met Brian Torsani, the head coach at Arcadia. He just had a coach leave and go to LaSalle as a Division I coach. Jimmy Golden left and went to LaSalle. So I took his role, was there for 2 years. And then this last June, moved down here and got the job at Carson Newman University down here in Tennessee, back at the Division II level in the SAC.
Sweet. Josh Epstein, could we go to you next?
So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Went to school in North Jersey at Ramapo College, Division III, and started coaching there and was coaching there for 6 years. So I guess kind of unique in the GA world. It took a while for me to move on from there for various reasons, but Coach Collins gave me the opportunity to be the GA. But I think one of the awesome things about the GA role at Bloom compared to some of the other ones across the country is that full pitching coach responsibilities, and the autonomy there is fantastic. And we talked about it, and then just turned it over to me, and that experience is tremendous. And was there from the fall of 13 to the spring of 15. And then, like everybody else, was looking for a new home, and we happened to be at the Carpenter Cup. And I think also one of the unique things about Bloomsburg is spending the Carpenter Cup at Matt Collins' house and everything that comes with that, which is tremendous. But we were in the parking lot and happened to run into my current head coach, which is wild. And coach was advocating for me, asking if you knew anybody that needed a pitching coach, and he and his assistant Rick Oliveri at the time were, gracious, said no, but we'll keep you in mind. And then that night we're sitting in the living room at Matt's house and get an email from Coach Ehalt, who's the head coach at Monmouth now, and he said that the Lincoln Memorial University pitching job is open, and I said that out loud, and Coach Collins says, "Oh, Jeff Sixeye, I know him. I'll call him right now." And called him up, and I think his answer was, "How do you know that this is open? This literally came open 3 hours ago." And it happened that Rick Oliveri was on staff there and saw that the pitching coach had left. And one thing led to another. Then was just hanging out at Select Fest at Rutgers, and got a call from Coach Sixeye and interviewed and invited me down there in Harrogate, Tennessee, which is, I don't know, Brownie 45 minutes away, 50 minutes, something like that. And one thing led to another, wound up down there, and had a few battles with the Knights of Bellarmine, and saw firsthand the impact that Coach Ebersol is having down there, which is tremendous. They went from four-hole ground ball offense to hit it over your heads and score a ton of runs offense, and he's doing a good job. And a few years later, the Monmouth job came open, and again, got in touch with Coach Ehalt and made my way back up to New Jersey, and in year 2 up here now.
That's pretty sweet. I mean, this coaching tree is one of a kind, honestly. But Coach Dustin Johnson, last but not least, could you give us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah. How's it going? So I am from Sunbury, Pennsylvania, so right down the street from Bloomsburg. I played at Bloom. I think I connect this circle pretty well. I would say that I'm probably one of 60 to 100 players that Coach Collins called when he first got the job at Bloomsburg, and he told me I was the first recruit he called that day. Of course, it wasn't the morning, and we all know that wasn't true. So I played for Coach. So my first year, I transferred in and started playing with Coach for, I was there for 4 years, one year redshirting with an injury. And then Coach gave me the opportunity to be the grad assistant in 2010 season and 2011 season. So I coached Ebersol for 2 years there. And then I went on to work as the pitching coach at Binghamton, where Rob had already told us that I recruited him on my way out. I was there for 3 years and went on to George Washington University to coach for a year and a half before I took a scouting job with the San Diego Padres, and did that for 3 years. And currently I live in Northern Virginia, where I teach elementary education, and I am a high school head coach at West Potomac High School in Alexandria, Virginia. So I do want to point out that just like Epstein said, is like the fact that getting to do, I think the most special thing about this being a position, being whether you're a student assistant or graduate assistant, is Coach Collins treating you like you're a full-time employee and allowing you the opportunity to grow, and the opportunity to make mistakes was probably the best 2-year learning experience, because it was like an experiment. He basically handed you over the keys to a car and told you to go try your best to make decisions, and worked with you when things weren't correct, And I think that is probably the best thing. And second to that is just the connections we all make. I think we're all tied somewhere, but I mean, no matter what, I feel like when I saw Eversole or Brownie or Hardy or Epstein on the road, it was always a really common connection to be able to take 5 minutes to have a conversation and laugh about some Coach Collins stories. But I think that's a testament to Coach Collins and his personality and all the care that he had for us and our families when we worked for him. And I think if it weren't for that, I don't think we'd all be, as genuine and as close to each other as we are when we see each other.
Right. I totally agree with everything you said. It really seems like me and Coach Kress here we're working under a great guy, and we have a lot in our future as do you guys. So, I mean, it was good to hear all these stories.
Yeah, no, and I think
before we move to the next section, I have a question about this wins record and counting. Are they counting the two wins, Coach, that for the days that we took Eversole as a player and me as every coach, we swept a doubleheader versus ESU. Coach Collins calls me up about 5:30 in the morning, with drowned out going, ugh. My eyes hurt. I've got cuts in my eyes, and you got to write the lineup and coach today. And he never warned me what a home plate meeting was, so I was very ill prepared for the home plate meeting. I handed it off to Coach Kamansky at ESU for that one. So,
Coach Collins, you got anything on that? You want to tell that story?
I tore my. It was the first day of the series. My eye was itchy. I'm coaching third base, itching my eye, and it's like cloudy. It's driving me nuts. I had contacts in. I didn't want to take the contact out, so I'm just trying to deal with it. And then in the middle of the night, I wake up, and it felt like someone stuck a fork in my eye. I was in tremendous pain. I was like, I couldn't open my eye. It was tearing up like crazy. And so my wife takes me to the ER, and they're checking it out, and they give me a shot. And they said, yeah, you tore your cornea off. It's, it could repair itself, but you got to stay in a dark room. We'll give you medication, but you can't be out. You can't do anything. And here we are. We're supposed to play. It was ESU at home. So I called Dustin. He had to run the show that day. Eversole, I believe, had a really good day. And you guys ended up sweeping. But I was sitting in a dark room with my phone just, on pins and needles, wondering how things were going to go. Yeah, and I do believe they counted those wins for me. So,
well, then you're welcome.
Yes, thanks.
And Eversole did have a good day because that was the coming out party for Nick Eversole, because he was a freshman and he started the year as like the third string catcher, and we were all in mess. And Coach Collins is like, I'm like, who do we catch? Because we were already talking about it. And he's like, catch Eversole. I'm like, who do I catch in the second game? And because at that time we had always switched back. He goes, well, if he has a good game, he's like, start him again. And he threw out both guys that tried to run on him, and I think he hit like a double off the center field fence to go ahead in that game. So he got the start. We never looked back after that.
So we've come to the conclusion that Coach Collins isn't really as close as we thought. Maybe he has 2 less wins in that column. But I think a great way to kind of start off this conversation is a pretty simple question, but it's like, what's your biggest takeaway from spending all this time? And I know Dustin talked a little bit about it. Just your biggest takeaway from being with Coach Collins, learning the system, and getting your feet wet for what most of us was the first coaching gig.
I got stuff. I don't know if it's good, but again, the autonomy of designing practice. First and foremost, how much time do you need with your guys today is a question that's commonly asked. And now being asked that question, I can come up with that answer. But in the moment, especially early on, it really forced me to put pen to paper. What did I want to accomplish today as a group with every guy? What are we doing? Things I take for granted now were certainly formed then from a practice and getting guys better standpoint. And then in-game decisions and who's going to start games. I tell a story all the time about we were playing Millersville, and that first year that I was there, we had a good team, and we got pretty hot. And playing Millersville in makeup midweek doubleheader, and they were throwing Chris Murphy, who's really good, and we were going to throw off, and we were trying to figure out who was going to start, and we came up with Utah Amake, and that was as much my decision. Maybe that might have been the first big decision that he allowed me to make, and the confidence. And so that was awesome. Just, how are we dealing with this in game, and how are we dealing with who's going to start and whatnot. And then just recruiting, recruiting is how everything, and who we're going to go see, who we're going to talk to, all the mechanics of that. And man, talk about an example. There's not a high school coach within a probably 500-mile radius that Coach Collins doesn't know. And I had come from a program where the head coach didn't really have – he certainly valued other coaches' opinions, but he really wanted to make a decision himself. And if we didn't talk to the coach, it wasn't a big deal. But, like, you mentioned a kid, you mentioned the high school, and Collins on the phone immediately with that coach, and they had a relationship and good rapport. So that example was huge for me. And just so there's probably a million more things, but those jump out for sure.
And I've got an interesting side story off of that. I actually figured that out. I learned a lot from Coach Collins through Coach Epstein, which is weird. And the story, I actually told Brandon about it while we were waiting. The story was it was last summer. I was out recruiting for one of the first handful of times, and I remember walking into you, Josh, and I had already known you, met you, and talked to you. I said, Josh, do you have any advice just in recruiting? What should I be doing? And Josh said to me, ask everyone, talk to everyone, ask them what their team, who's good on their team, who's playing well, but talk to everyone, because you never know when something's really going to hit. And Josh, that was, it was simple advice, but it was really something that helped me kind of see what I needed to be doing. It's this is what Josh is doing. Well, great. Well, I should, take that and steal that philosophy and just ask everyone about who's the good players, who's been playing well for you, what's going on, and really building those relationships, which I don't know if I ever told you that really had a profound impact on me and my coaching, Yeah. So go ahead, Josh.
No, as you say, that's awesome. And then certainly, I certainly didn't come up with that, but I think that, again, why this is special, just lineage and trying to help the next guy out is awesome. Most important thing.
Yeah. The nicest thing was, and I don't think we ever went through this, it actually did net us a recruit too. So thank you, Josh. He's the gift that keeps on giving.
Talk a little bit about that too. A lot of the same things that the guys have touched on. I think the common theme is the autonomy that you get, and I think it's especially different based on the people that they hire. I got hired. I might be the only one that got hired straight out of playing. Rob, at least you were a volunteer for a year. Josh had coached for a couple of years. All the other guys had coached before. I was a player. So I think the autonomy that I got and the responsibility that coach gives you in that role, and especially for where I was coming from, that helped me more than he will ever know. You learn a ton, and like Dustin said, you make a lot of mistakes, and you figure out who you are as a coach and what you want to be. But the value that you have in learning who you are from the autonomy and responsibility you have is huge. And getting to know other head coaches and working for other head coaches, you realize that it's not like that everywhere else. A lot of times you're told this is exactly what you're doing. This is how I want you to do. This is what you have in recruiting. This is how you're going to run the staff. And I think now looking back on it, having other jobs, I respect the autonomy and the responsibility I had more than anything. I think that's the most important part. And the coolest thing about the job is the experience that you want to get out of that job is limitless. If you want to recruit a ton, you can do it. If you want to do everything possible with the staff, you can do it. There's nothing that's really going to hold you back. It's a limitless opportunity where you can really learn a ton about yourself.
So we can all agree that the autonomy is definitely up there. And just to go into that further, I think the funniest, maybe it's funny to me, I don't know, but one of the funniest stories I have is we're down in Colonial Heights, or not Colonial Heights, maybe Virginia Beach, or playing the shipbuilders, right? And Mike Warren starts game 1 of the season. And as most of us know, Mike Warren is an unbelievable dude and he just had a bad day that day. And Coach Collins is like, all right, so what do you want to do here? And I'm sitting there like, I don't know. Like, you kind of are the head coach. Like, what is the decision going to be made? And he's like, no, like, that's on you. You make the decision. You pull him, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember going out to the mound, taking the ball from Mike. First game as an assistant coach, and I'm like, holy crap, welcome to it. And that's just like blows my mind that the autonomy is there to actually make in-game like wins and losses decisions. And Coach Collins understands it. It's part of the game. It's part of the growing experience as an assistant coach, where we all went there, and like Brownie and Epstein, many of you guys are well aware of, that responsibility isn't always there at different positions. I mean, for sure, what we learned our 2 years there outweighs a lot of grad assistant positions and some assistant positions across the country. I mean, that autonomy is like Brownie said, limitless in knowledge, absolutely limitless.
Look at your experience based on how well prepared you are after you leave, much like the players. So, and I wouldn't bring you guys in. I wouldn't have brought you guys in if I didn't think you were capable of doing that, So in terms of the search, I'm looking for guys that could coach at extremely high level. So just like you would in your recruiting a student athlete, I mean, you're looking for the best guy you can get to play shortstop, the best guy you can get on the mound, the best guy you can get behind the dish. So you're not going to recruit somebody that you don't think can do the job. And, so that's kind of how I looked at it. For me, age wasn't a factor. It was more, can this guy perform at a really high level, even if he doesn't know he can do it? You know what I mean? So, and I don't want somebody on the staff that isn't capable of leaving and coaching at a high level. You know what I mean? So my expectation is if you guys chose to continue on in your careers, you could coach at a really high level in a full-time position. And I definitely think that what you've done after you've left have proven that you have that ability. But, as I said, like, if I'm not giving you those opportunities to coach like you're in the SEC ASAP, you're never going to be ready to do that. So the best bet for me was to throw you in the fire and show a great degree of confidence in you, and eventually you'd start believing in yourself.
We keep talking about it, like autonomy, and coach giving us this great opportunity to be like, here, hit the ground running. And that's a product of like what the position is. Like, we weren't going to have time for, like, it's like, hey, you're in this position, you got to go do it. And like coach just said, I want to point out the fact, like, let's not forget like all the things we learned in our time there from Coach Collins too. Like we're all obviously grateful for the opportunity. We're grateful for being allowed to do what we wanted, but like we also learned in that process, like just like coach was saying, like talking about players, like there's countless number of recruiting trips I took over 2 summers and 2 falls with Coach Collins, where we just sit and talk about past players recruited. What did they look like? What did we see on the field? Like, what did I like about this hitter? What did I like about this swing? And those types of things. And just like how to recruit, like what to say, like how do you start the conversation? Like, what are the steps? Like, I think it's really important. Like one conversation, like Brownie was saying about just being first, like I went from being a player to coaching. I went with Coach Collins, and I remember being like super nervous for my first recruiting visit, like a mom and a 17-year-old kid. I know that's strange. We recruit 14-year-olds now, right? But like a 17-year-old kid and his mom are sitting down, and I've got this typed out 1 page of like my pitching philosophy. And I don't know what I would have said, but I remember Coach Collins looking at me and being like, look, this is really important. You don't have any coaching experience, so you have to be who you are. Like, be genuine. Like, tell them what you're going to do. Don't tell them like this is what we do, because they're going to see right through it because you haven't done it before. So make sure to tell them what you're going to do. And I, honestly, like, it seems so subtle, but like that stuck with me. It made it really true. Like when you're recruiting kids and families, like just being super genuine. I think I've mentioned that before. Like that speaks to who Coach Collins is too. And like what, like a little piece of all of us there too.
Yeah, no. And I think there's some really great tidbits that I'm even like taking down. Like I wrote down, Coach Collins said, even if he doesn't know he could do it, I'm still going to give him the chance. Right. And that's something that, I know Brownie kind of alluded to it. I kind of felt that way. I know Dustin alluded to that, where it's like, you're like, are you sure? You sure you want me to do this? I remember same thing with, I think it was Hardy said this. He said game one, walking out to the mound and taking the ball away and making a move. I remember doing that while I was in Colonial Heights at the Shipbuilders Invitational and being like, Mike, are you sure you want to do this, Mike? You could do this. But again, like autonomy, man, it's impressive how much he allows you to grow and, make the mistakes and really grow from it. So as seen, this episode's a little shorter. This conversation went very, very long. I think it was about an hour and a half. So instead of giving you guys an hour and a half of content, I think we're going to split it up into 2 parts. In that episode, we'll talk about what they missed most from their time at Bloomsburg and some advice that they would have for younger coaches who are trying to get their foot in the door. The second part will be out later this week, so watch out on Twitter, YouTube, all that kind of stuff for the second half of this Bloomsburg GA and assistant coach roundtable.